In the winter of 1959, search crews in Russia's Ural Mountains discovered a frozen crime scene that defies basic logic. 9 experienced hikers were dead. Their tent had been slashed from the inside. The victims had fled into sub-zero temperatures barefoot. Some were missing vital facial tissues, and several bodies were saturated with radiation. These were not amateurs. They were seasoned cross-country skiers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. 10 of them set out, but one member, Yuri Yudin, fell ill early on and turned back, a decision that saved his life. The remaining 9 pressed on. Their route took them toward Mount Otorten, forcing them to camp on the exposed slope of Kolatsyok, a name that translates to Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language. By February 12th, they were supposed to send a telegram confirming their safe return. The message never came. In 2020, the Russian government attempted to resolve the case. Their official ruling blamed a combination of a localized avalanche, blindingly low visibility, and subsequent hypothermia. That explanation requires us to ignore the physical evidence. An avalanche provides a neat bureaucratic answer, but the documented anomalies found on that mountain contradict the known mechanics of a natural disaster. The first contradiction lies in the escape. The first 5 bodies discovered, including Dyatlov, were scattered between the tree line and the ruined tent. They were in lethal cold, yet they had left their heavy coats, thermal layers, and boots behind in the camp. Medical examiners often point to paradoxical undressing, a phenomenon where hypothermia victims experience a burning sensation and strip off their clothes in their final moments. But look at their physical orientation. The bodies were positioned facing up the slope. They were positioned as if they were actively trying to crawl back to the tent they had just abandoned. If it wasn't an avalanche that drove them out into the dark, researchers look for alternative environmental triggers. One of the strongest natural candidates is the phenomenon of infrasound. As fierce winter winds pass over the mountain's dome-shaped topography, they create a Kármán vortex street, producing low-frequency acoustic waves. Humans cannot hear these frequencies, but our bodies feel them. Sustained exposure induces profound distress, nausea, and irrational panic. A sudden wave of sound-induced terror explains why seasoned survivalists would cut their way out of a tent and run blind into the snow. But an acoustic wave cannot crush a human skull. It took months of thawing snow for searchers to find the final 4 members. They were located deeper in the woods, at the bottom of a steep ravine, buried under 4 meters of snow. The autopsy reports for this group derailed the investigation. 3 of the 4 had sustained catastrophic internal trauma. They suffered massive skull fractures and severely crushed chests, with doctors comparing the impact force to a high-speed car crash. Here is the forensic impossibility. Despite their bones being shattered, these victims had 0 external soft tissue damage, no heavy bruising, no surface scrapes, no visible cuts. A massive wall of avalanche snow rolling over a human body grinds and crushes from the outside in, leaving obvious surface trauma. The highly specific nature of these injuries has led independent investigators to look past natural phenomena entirely, pointing to secretive Cold War atmospheric weapons tests. Specifically, the injuries match a fuel-air explosive profile. When detonated, it consumes oxygen and creates a massive overpressure wave. That shockwave hits the body, instantly compressing internal cavities, snapping ribs, and fracturing skulls from atmospheric pressure while leaving the outer skin intact. A classified weapons test provides a mechanical explanation for the trauma that snow alone cannot. Under this framework, the hikers were victims of a military operation rather than a natural disaster. Even a weaponized shockwave struggles to explain the condition of 20-year-old Ludmila Dubinina. When she was recovered from the ravine, examiners found that both her eyes, part of her lips, and her entire tongue were completely missing. Her stomach contained a large volume of blood, indicating her heart was still beating when the tissue was removed. While it's common for small scavengers to target soft tissues post-mortem, the precision of the removal, buried deep under compacted snow, has kept more disturbing theories alive for decades. Then the forensics team processed the victim's surviving winter gear. They discovered high levels of beta radiation saturating the clothing. The Soviet authorities moved immediately. The 1959 investigation was abruptly closed. The physical files were classified and sealed. the lead investigator was forced to officially record the cause of death as an unknown compelling force. You do not simply classify an avalanche. When radioactive isotopes and government suppression enter the record, natural explanations lose their factual foundation. Take a look at this Venn diagram mapping out the leading theories. The avalanche fails to explain the internal trauma. Infrasound accounts for the blind panic, but fails the radiation test. A military strike explains the shattered bones and the secrecy, but struggles to account for the precise tissue removal. Every single theory proposed over the last 6 decades leaves at least one major piece of physical evidence stranded. We live in an era where satellite telemetry, DNA sequencing, and advanced acoustics can dissect almost any cold case. Yet this remote campsite in 1959 remains opaque. The Dyatlov Pass incident endures because it strips away our certainty. It is a locked-room mystery on the side of a mountain, forcing us to admit that sometimes an unknown compelling force is the only honest answer science and history can provide.